We
put
also
another
roll
one in the
call,
hallway,
please.
but
Councilmember Durr?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett? Councilmember Stanko? Councilmember Reeser?
Here.
Council First Vice President Brenner?
Here. Prior to tonight's meeting, we had an executive committee meeting to discuss both legal and personnel matters. At this point, does anybody have any public comment? Go ahead.
Michelle, can we put those things? No, okay, fair enough. I did try to forward some images, but they were late, so I guess that's why she cannot. So I asked the council to table or deny awarding the refuse recycling and yard waste contracts to JP Mascaro for the reasons listed below. Bidding process was either incomplete or insufficiently well documented, ending up in an improper comparison which favored Mascaro for no legitimate purpose. And here I was planning to show something that was publicly shown at the refuse and the financial committees. I'm sure it's on the reports, but it will be submitted so you can consult the document. The RFP narrowed the requirements for recycling to single stream only, eliminating all other suppliers since only Mascaro offers single stream recycling. Wyomissing residents are forward thinking and are already recycling and composting. I'm sure that they would prefer to sort the recycling instead of having to pay double just to continue single stream. By not having even requested proposals for other recycling methods, we're left with no comparison. We simply don't know how much more we pay for single stream. If the prices were comparable, we would naturally opt for single stream, but we just don't know. Limiting the RFP to single stream offered Mascaro an opportunity to lower the bids for refuse and yard waste, knowing that there is no possible competitor in price for single stream. Number two, the quarterly fees charged to residents will have to double in order to break even. Another chart, again, presented at the meetings. Our overall expenses for refuse and recycling will increase from $993,000 to $1.659 million. As seen above, the break-even point is to increase the quarterly fees 2.1 times. Having to pay more than $500 a year is not a fee anymore. We need to explore every alternative before awarding such contracts. I asked the council to pause and look harder at every other possibility. 3, there is no auditing system in place. There is total lack of transparency from Mascaro. We simply don't have any tangible proof that they do what they claim they do, or if their $20 million investment has the capacity to process all the township they service. We also don't know what happens downstream after the sorting process. Are the sorted items truly reprocessed, or they end up in other landfills in other states? At the council meeting from May 2021, Councilman Jenks presented us with the borough's auditing procedure. I quote from the video that is still posted on the borough website. There was a public concern that recycling is going to landfill. The borough manager spoke to Mascaro and they indicated that recycling is processed at their Birdsboro facility. And that should end that question. So our auditing system consists of calling JP and asking him kindly if he recycles. We have a refuse committee, and although I attended every meeting, I never heard anyone saying they visited the facility or somehow audited their documents. We need more accountability and real transparency. We simply cannot sign such contract before making sure that we know exactly what we receive and or before exploring every other alternative. And number 4, research shows that single stream is not necessarily the best answer. There is plenty of pertinent research available which shows that while the single stream recycling is more expensive per ton of processed material, it results in higher contamination and therefore higher residual rates, primarily due to glass breakage and unrisked containers. In other words, Wyomissing residents pay more to get less material recycled. Very often I hear the term common sense used by various members of our council. Mascara trucks are equipped with compactors which compress recyclables. Common sense dictates that this process produces a
30
huge
seconds.
blob of, I'm sorry?
30 seconds.
A blob of commingled materials which are harder to separate by machines. This is also consistent to what the researchers say. I cannot imagine why we would ignore research and common sense. I hope I am in time.
You are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? None? Hearing none, we'll move on. In front of us, we have the council minutes for August 9th. Does anybody have any changes or alterations that need to be made to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the council minutes for, it says August 8th on this, but it says August 9th on the thing, so, on the August 9th, council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Consulting engineers report, Mr. McCarthy.
Good evening, everyone. I think actually we have everything covered in the report, so I don't have anything to add other than the report itself, unless anybody has any questions for me that I'm covering in the report.
Anybody have any questions for Jim McCarthy?
I'll make a motion to accept the engineer's report.
We have a motion and a second to accept the engineer's report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Police chief and mayor's report. Mayor Levering?
Thank you. As always, Chief will highlight his report for us. I do want to make mention of one particular item, and Officer Matt Henney, who's been with the borough for a long time, is, and we knew it was coming, but he has now officially announced his retirement, probably early '23. And personally sorry to see him depart, but we wish him the very best.
How long was he on the force? Well, he came to us with the merger with the Hills in 2002, so he is the last remaining officer that was a police officer for the former Hills Borough. But I believe he started as a police officer with them in 1990.
Okay.
Around a little while.
A lot of experience going with.
Yeah.
Chief?
So, good evening, everyone.
Good
I'm
evening.
going to quickly review my report, and as always, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. We were available for 3,932 hours of service for the month of August. We responded to 671 calls during that month. We had 168 calls in our business districts, which was 25% of our calls, and 21 in our residential communities for 3%. Took us an average of 4.7 minutes to arrive on location, and we spent an average of 30.82 minutes on a call. The training that we conducted for the month consisted of scenarios and tactics for the FTO. I had officers complete Act 79 of 2018 updates to the PFA Act. Officers participated in Operation Nighthawk, which was a DUI detection detail that was over 2 days. They got training from the Pennsylvania State Police at the beginning of each night, and then they were out in the borough looking for DUIs. We finished up our defensive tactics. We had an officer doing some narcotic enforcement training that dealt with hotels. A few of us watched a debrief on an active shooter incident, and I did some training dealing with drug and alcohol abuse of employees. I just wanted to note that this training was one that I did through our insurance carrier Loomis. They have some items online. The borough manager had set myself up with that, so there's a lot of good stuff on this site for, I believe, myself in particular. We're dealing with employees and safety and things, and there's some stuff out there that I can push out as well, which I will be doing as the years go on. So I thank Michelle for giving us that access. I'm a big believer in training, any training to athletic improvements, so. We had the traffic counters out as always in the, by the Hills Pool, we kept it over there, and then we were in the 1500 block of Reading Boulevard, 25 miles per hour at each location. 85th percentile at the pool was found to be 25.59, and on Reading Boulevard at 3rd. We gave assistance 15 times in the month and received it 14. I wanted to make note that there's an establishment right on our borough line of Cumberland Township that's really giving them a lot of headaches, and we get a lot of spillover from that, as it's right on the line, it's on weekends. I've been in contact with their chief of police, we're trying to set something up, and do some kind of joint detail. I've been in contact with their lieutenant that's been assigned now to set this up. But they've been working with the LCB, and we are now giving them all of our incidents that have some kind of nexus to their establishment, so that we're trying to give them more fuel to help the LCB do something with this place. So you may have heard about it. We get noise complaints a lot from it, from the Highlands area. But we're referring it all to Cumru so that they can notify the LCB. And the mayor has spoke about Officer Henning. Traffic stops were once again our single highest incident that we handled for the month. We had 44 total crashes. You'll notice that there's one pedestrian, one fatal. I have noted there that that's the same incident where the pedestrian was killed in a crash. We had 263 total citations, warnings, or parking tickets issued. We arrested 31 individuals. We dealt with 2 wanted persons. There were 50 total Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. So out of that 671, that left 621 calls for service. Again, I always have the breakdown of what those offenses were for the UCR so that you can see. But for the total year, we're at 437 total, with 293 cleared with a 67% clearance rate. And you look at over the last 4-year comparison, that puts us right about where we usually are, in the high 60s to low 70s. Just over 10,000 gallons of fuel were used, and just over 9,000 miles were patrolled. All of our fines and report requests totaled $26,841.97. One of the things that I've spoken with Phyllis about, and we're looking at it as we're doing budget numbers right now, is we participate in this, we've been participating in it for years, where our traffic reports would get downloaded to Carfax, and Carfax would then distribute those reports to the insurance companies or the people, so it kind of kept us out of it, we didn't need to deal with it. We would then get checks from Carfax. Another company, LexisNexis, would do it as well. They're a third party that most insurance companies would utilize. The state police this month sent out a, I won't call it a mastogram, but it was a nice word email to the entire state that we are precluded from giving these reports to those agencies because they are third party and they're not allowed to have that material with the law, as the law is written now. So not only us, but many municipalities in this county and state have now stopped doing that. So who we're going to be giving it to is if the insurance company, instead of using the third party, requests the information directly, that we can give it to them, or if the person involved in the crash asks for a copy, they can get it. So we're not quite sure how that's going to affect the amount of reports or requests for the reports come in. So we're thinking it's going to slow it down. Those people will still be charged when they come ask, but just not sure how many of them are going to continue to ask. So we shall see. I do expect places like Carfax and LexisNexis to now talk to the legislature and lobby them to get them into the approved list of having that, but as of now, that's going to stop. So our busiest times for the month, usually pretty similar, but looks like noon and 2 o'clock, we're tied at 50. DUIs, as you can see, as I said, we did those 2 details, were our highest for the single arrests for the month. And then the information on the traffic counters that we had out. So if anybody has any questions on that, I'm glad to answer.
I think I brought this up a while back, I'm not quite sure, I remember what the answer was. Is there any way that Pete could compare the last year's month-to-date or year-to-date numbers so that when you're looking at them for requests for equipment or more manpower, that you could look at the DUIs or the accidents or any one of these characteristics? Because right now, they just run monthly, and it's good to know, but it's really a vacuum compared to a comparison.
Well, so you're asking for, I mean, I could go in and look at year to year, how many DUIs we had, I could look at every incident.
Well, I was looking at it more from the standpoint of making an adjustment to the program where it would just carry over the data from last year and just pop
For-
it in there if we needed it.
Don't you do that at the end of the year? You do
I do a report at the end of the year, well, I'll do it at the beginning of next year for all of 2022. That has a lot of information.
I
in it.
remember seeing that from last year, that he does that every year.
Like a
I don't know that we
prior
need to see it on a
years.
monthly basis.
So, I mean, I don't, if you're looking,
Well, for example, if you just look at the summertime, speeding on Parkside Drive, if we looked at it June, July, and August this year versus June, July, and August last year, that would give us some indication whether people are slowing down and there's more of them or less of them, and murders or whatever else it might happen to be. If we had it in front of us, rather than at the end of the year, figure out what happened last June and how did that relate to the previous June, people were warning versus present day data compared to last year's data at the same time. And I'm just saying, if you can do it electronically, it's
Well-
a no-brainer. If you're trying to do it manually.
so, the traffic counter information, that's not gonna be able to get searched. That doesn't. Since I started having the officers take numbers for traffic stops, that's easier to do, because now I could run for that type incident between these dates and years, how many we had. So if I'm gonna know how many traffic stops we did in June of 2021, I can do that. Compare it then to how many traffic stops. But it does not have the specific code of what the violation was.
Well, whatever
That I
you
would
show-
have to, I'm not sure, but, I mean, I can do that for every incident. I'm not sure what council really wants to see. That's gonna be a very long report if I go into every incident.
Chief, you're,
I would
I
love
don't
to
think,
find that useful.
yeah, I don't think council needs to get into that level of detail. I really don't. I think, chief, you need to make determination where your best manpower resources are utilized based on the information you're seeing, and that's your job. I don't think that's ours. I just I don't see us analyzing that kind of detail, nor getting involved in that kind of detail. That's why we've got professionals doing it. I just don't see us as that oversight.
And frankly, I don't see, if somebody tells me there were 65 people that got arrested for DUI, I'd say, so what? How does that relate to last year? If you told me 300 and last month there were 10, it would be relevant. These statistics are great, but I'm not so sure how many larcenies we had last year.
What are you gonna do with the information? Are you
Well,
gonna change the
if you
police
told,
budget?
if
Are
you
you
told me
gonna
there are
tell him to hire more
you
people?
told me
to
there
put
were
it in this?
27 larcenies in August of 2022, and there were 6 last year, I'd say we got a problem. But I don't know what we had last year, so 27 doesn't mean anything to me.
All
That's
right, well, why don't we discuss this at fire and police and see if there's a report that needs to be done and go from there. Okay, anybody have any questions for the chief, police chief or the mayor? Hearing none,
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Second.
we have a motion to second to accept the police chief's and mayor report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Fire chief's report, Colin?
Good evening, council. For the month of August, there was 156 responses consisting of 21 fires, 21 motor vehicle accidents, 52 medicals, 12 hazardous conditions, 49 alarm activations, and 1 fire police call. Out of the 52 medical calls, we actually had 19 patient contacts, and 33 of those were no services or we were canceled. Our busiest day of the week was Wednesday with 50. Our busiest time of the day was 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. with 31. Our average dispatch to en route time was 1 minute 55 seconds. Dispatch to on scene 6 minutes 55 seconds. Average on scene time 20 minutes and 20 seconds. We had 94 calls in the borough, 62 outside of the borough. Fire damage for the month of August was $5,000. Saved property was $360,000. That was for a dwelling fire, the 1500 block of Garfield. Average turnout per incident was 4.4. Volunteer response for the month was 7, and year to date, the end of August, 1,168 responses. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for the fire chief? Hearing none? We have a motion to approve the fire, I'm sorry, give me a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the fire chief's report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Colin. On the committee reports, infrastructure, that's me, relatively light month. We had a meeting on August 15th. Some of the things we need to take action on, the first one is to make payment application number 1 in the amount of $74,244.02 to Sewer Specialty Services for the sewer rehabilitation and televising project. And I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, it's a roll call. Thank you. Roll call,
Councilmember
Melissa.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brunner?
Yes. Okay. The other thing we need to take action on for the 2022 street improvements is council, I'll make a motion to approve payment for payment application number 2 in the amount of $272,628.84 to the H&K Group for the 2022 street repair work or street work project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, I did it
I
again.
didn't mind.
Sorry.
Councilmember Durr?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brunner?
Yes. So we got the same way. Got the same. We had some other discussions. The bike sharing station, Michelle, seems to be going well. It seems to be a hit. I hear people in West Reading love it too. Anything else, Jim, that you would like to add? How'd the paving project work out? That are done?
Paving project's all done except for some line striping. The sewer work is, most of the TV work is done, but none of the repairs are complete. So that'll go on for another month or so. So far, so good.
Some tells me the good news is the streets get paved, but I gotta believe the pace of play will go up a little bit because it's so smooth.
We will have next year's recommendations at infrastructure.
Great. Okay, that's all I have for the infrastructure committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the infrastructure committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Personnel committee, Fred.
Personnel committee, very, very brief meeting, on August 16th. We had no public comments. We went into executive session to discuss personnel bargaining, contractual matters. That lasted approximately an hour. It came out there was no persons present, I believe, and no old business or new business, and adjourned at 12:12.
Okay.
If you want me to, I'll make the motion to approve that committee report.
Second.
We have a motion to accept and a second to accept the personnel committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to recreation board. Jana, Pete, Okay.
Go ahead, Pete, please.
Good evening. Just a quick update on the recreation program as it sits right now. All the summer programming is completed. That ended on August 5th. That was playground, tennis, and then swimming pool ended on Labor Day. We were shut because of a lack of lifeguards for the last 2 weeks, so Monday through Friday, those last 2 weeks. Which is something we will try to rectify again, but it's college-age kids and they go back to school, and fortunately that's it. The pool is currently being cleaned, the snack bar is being cleaned out. Everything looks very good. Kent and his team have done a great job of keeping that flowing, and everything's in great shape. We don't have a whole lot as far as programming in September. We do have a pretty hefty docket in October. We have 2 star watches. We have the Garden Club cleanup, Tyco, Fly Fishing is also doing a creek cleanup from Wawa up to the Stonehouse. And we have Sleepy Hollow on the 15th, so we have some programming coming up after a little bit of a break.
What did you say Sleepy Hollow was?
The 15th. We are currently working, we have a McCarthy made a cost analysis for putting pickleball courts at the Mausoleum Field. I'm meeting with Mr. Shields from Firmouth Tennis tomorrow afternoon to go over what that might look like. We're going to take a look at the West Reading courts, and it's going to show me some things he might have done differently and how that might look. So hopefully he'll come in with some funding and we'll go from there.
Great.
That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Janet?
I don't have anything to add. I'll be next week and we'll be looking forward.
Yep.
Okay. Well, there's some items on there that we. Okay.
So we'd like to have a motion to change the playground at, instead of being from 7 to 13, maybe 7 to 12. And that, the reason for that is the 13-year-olds seem to be really in a different category than the younger kids.
And we'd like to use the 13-year-olds as
As
volunteers.
Yeah.
We're not shunning them or saying they can't participate. We'd like to put them in more of a leadership role.
Well, I guess I can't ask a question yet. So we have a motion on the floor to change the playground program age from 7 to 13-year-old to 7 to 12 years old. Is there a second to that?
Second.
I have a question. How many 13-year-olds do we have in it?
We had about 8 this year, and they all eventually kind of evolved into being kind of a student leader. So they didn't really accept the programming as it was delivered. They get bored easy. They're not quite sure why they're there. So I saw it more of like an asset that we could actually use. You know, if they're feeling that way, we can put them to work.
Thanks.
Sure.
So,
Recruit playground
Sure.
leaders
okay. We have a motion and a second to change the ages from 7 to 13 and to 7 to 12. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
And the other motion would be to authorize the formation of the garden club with the supplies paid out of the recreation budget.
Okay, so we have a motion to form a garden club with the underlying and supply costs to be expended from the recreation budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Question? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to economic development.
Motion.
No, I'm sorry, we need a motion to accept the recreation.
So,
Second.
Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Economic development?
We met on August the 25th. There aren't any action items. It's basically routine business with the exception of we had a presentation made by Pam Shuck from the county clerks in regards to the county's new strategic plan called Imagine Berks. There have been other plans over the years. This one appears to be different. The county commissioners are solidly behind it. I've been in a couple of meetings about it, and at least one of them has been in every one of those meetings, so. Our expectation is that this is really gonna lead to something. You know, it's gonna take some time. Pam was kind enough to come and give us an individual update on the plan. We decided to invite some guests. We invited Mark Boyer from the 26th School District, Dean Murray and Mike Hart, Dean from West Reading and Mike from Sinking Spring. They're both borough managers, to make it a kind of a regional sort of thing. And they appreciated being there, and we got some input from them as well. So it was a worthwhile meeting, but no action items. So I would ask that one of the council members make a motion to accept them.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion to second to accept the Economic Development Committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Fire and Police Committee.
Well, Fire and Police Committee met on August the 29th, and we had the usual updates from, on the fire side from Chief Hackman, from the Western Berks Ambulance Association. Tony Tucci always comes. John Phillips, of course, our police chief, gave us a thorough update, and then he does have a couple of items that we need to take under consideration. We have found that ordering police cars, as you may have already been aware, if you try to order a car for yourself, go order it today and expect to see it in 8 months or something like that. Police cars with their specialization and so on are even longer. So, we have done this before, and we want to continue that. So, we have developed a 5-year police vehicle plan, so following along with that, the chief is requesting that we go ahead and, subject to the Finance Administration Committee approving, go along and approve an increase in the cost that came about with those cars and getting actual quotes on them now as opposed to our budgets, and it would increase the amount of dollars expended from $83,805.44 to $94,050.12.
That'll be a motion.
We'll make that motion in the finance.
Oh, so it's being covered
Yeah,
there?
we covered there.
Oh, why didn't you stop?
Well, we tried.
Well, now Keith will have to talk as long.
Well, you know, once the mayor gets started, it begins. We also had a discussion of a request for a handicap parking spot for 1414 Garfield Avenue. I don't know if we've mentioned this to the entire council before, but I'll, at the risk of repeating, I'm going to. Chief has inventoried all the handicap parking spaces to make sure that we adhere to a plan where we don't want more than one in a block. And then B, that the spot is still needed, that the individual that had originally requested hasn't moved or whatever. Based on following that plan, the committee is requesting council approve a spot in the 1400 block of Garfield Avenue. And I would ask for members of council to make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second to approve the handicap parking request for 1414 Garfield Avenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
We also had an update from our West Side Regional Emergency Management Coordinator, that's Tom Boucher, also. And he's kept us up to date on their business. Under new business, we amended the agenda to add an item. Does council need to approve it?
It's already on the agenda.
So it's already on there. I thought so.
Under this committee.
So this request has to do with activating the Civil Service Commission for the purposes of developing a hiring list for both the police departments and the fire departments. Due to some retirements and so on, we're gonna have a need to get those, those processes back in motion again. As you all know, they take some period of time. So, the committee is recommending council that we activate civil service to initiate the testing process and generate a certified hiring list for the fire department and the police department. And I would again ask one of the council members to make such a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to activate the Civil Service Commission to initiate the testing process to generate certified hiring lists for the police and the fire department. All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Lastly, I'd like to note that there was an executive session held for the purposes of discussing contractual matters. And that would be the end of the report, and I'll now ask one of you
Make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
to do what Keith did.
Motion and a second to accept the Fire and Police Committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Refuse and recycling.
Thank you. We had a special meeting on September 7th to review bids for services for the coming years. And after discussion, we are recommending to council that we award the refuse recycling and yard waste contract to the lowest bidder, which is J.P. Mascaro, in the amount of $4,091,446.80.
That's over how many years?
3 years with a 2-year contingency after that, but for 3 years.
So we have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the refuse recycling yard waste contract to the lowest bidder, J.P. Mascaro, in the amount of $4,091,446.80 over the length of the contract. Roll call, Melissa.
Councilmember Jarrett?
Yes.
Councilmember Mokel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brenner?
Yes. Okay.
I have one more comment. We discussed how the impact of these, the increases to our residents, and we are studying that with the finance committee, so we do not have a recommendation at this point.
Okay.
Speak to that, Harry.
We'll wait.
I think I might want to withdraw my approval on that last motion, because I forgot my son works for Washington, he represents J.P. Mascaro, so I'm going to be abstention on that.
You don't personally benefit financially from it, so.
I was going to abstain.
Okay, how do I go about doing that?
I think I did do that.
Why don't we, at the request of Councilperson Stanko, ask the secretary to indicate in the minutes of this meeting that he is abstaining.
That's all I have.
Thanks for all the good news. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the refuse and recycling committee report.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second to accept the refuse and recycling report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Finance and admin, Keith, go get them.
Okay. The Finance and Admin Committee met on September 8th at 8 o'clock in the morning. Phyllis reviewed our income and expenditures. We can report that our capital projects are on budget, our expenditures are well within the budget. There's been no expenditures made that have been outside the budget. In terms of revenue, we're sitting currently at a little over $14 million, of which $1.772 billion of that is reserved for future projects, leaving us a net of non-reserved of $12,332,000. Keeping in mind that when the budget was established, we're going to be, as Greg will point out, we're winding down the revenue and winding down the expenses, being our target of coming at the end of the year of $8,168,000 of not reserved funds. Currently, we are on track for that. We had, when we looked at the revenue streams coming in, we were off on some of the projections. Our real estate transfer taxes are down. However, our mercantile and sales tax is significantly up. So it's offsetting that. And as of the meeting, and we still aren't sure, I'm not sure, Phyllis didn't give us a report, we're still anticipating as part of the revenue budget, $550,000 or $548,000 coming from the federal government from our second tranche of the American Rescue Plan. And that either was received or is anticipated to be received in the next day or two. Phyllis also started the budgeting process. For September, she gave the worksheets out and she established a set of dates, of key dates of when some of those worksheets need to come back. Keeping with that discussion of the budget, council does not need to decide tonight. However, in the next few months, prior to establishing the budget for next year, this trash issue needs to be looked into and determine what we're going to do. Currently, the cost of passed on to the residents of Wyomissing is $250 a year, $62.50 a quarter. Michelle is going to look at our surrounding areas to see how that compares. The good news and bad news is there hasn't been a price increase for 15 years. The bad news is there hasn't been a price increase for 15 years. So any price increase now is going to appear substantial. Currently, based on the budget and based on what the current haulers are charging and the contracts into the landfill, taxpayers are supplementing the trash collection for this year of $133,500. So there is no break even. There hasn't been a break even for several years. There probably should have been. There isn't. It's nothing you can catch up on at this point. If the rate would be raised to $450 a year to $112 a quarter, the borough would still need to absorb $328,000 with taxpayer dollars. And if we were to not raise the rate at all, the borough would be looking at absorbing $828,000. So, all of that being said, we're going to have to make some hard decisions as to how much of this the borough is willing to absorb using taxpayer dollars versus how much we need to pass on. And I think part of that's going to have to look at, again, some of this of what's being done in the surrounding areas. The preliminary numbers that Michelle got, we are significantly lower than most people. Most of our community and surrounding area is paying into the $8,000–$9,000 a year in trash collection, trash and recycling. So unfortunately, we're behind in terms of what we're charging our residents and what the cost is going to be. So there's no actionable item on that today, but that is going to have to be part of our ongoing budget discussions. For next year. That being said, actionable items for the finance, and I did mention the capital projects are on track. Part of this is going to be part of those capital projects. As obligated to our pension funds, we had an established number to contribute to the MMO contribution for our third quarter payment was established at the beginning of the year of $74,499.50. And I will make that in a form of motion to recommend to council that we pay the third quarter MMO $74,499.50.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve or authorize the payment of the third quarter 2022 MMO of $74,499.50. That calls for a roll call.
Councilmember Durr?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Senko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brenner?
Yes.
Second item is apparently for the month of, I guess before the 1st of October, we need to approve the 2023 MMO obligation based on the worksheets prepared by Phyllis, the business manager. Her worksheets indicated, based on her best guess of salaries and percentages, next year's MMO would need to be $802,590. And don't have what this year's was, but it was around 780,000, I think. I think it's around a $20,000 increase is what she's projecting based on salary increases. It wasn't a great,
It is close.
yeah, it was within 20,000. So, the recommendation is to budget for next year's MMO or the pension funds, $802,590.
Okay.
That's spending or that's?
I don't know.
This is a filing with the state government, so you're not spending this money,
We're just filing it.
you're just authorizing the delivery to the state of the document that says that's the MMO for
So that's what the motion.
Yeah, just authorizing the submission of the borough's MMO.
And I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to second to authorize the submission of the 2023 MMO to the state for $802,590. Since we're not spending that now, do we have to do a roll call?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
There was a lengthy discussion as it related to the right to know request policy. So I'm just gonna read this because it'll probably easier. So I'm gonna make this motion, which was the recommendation of the Finance and Administration Committee to the council. A request was needed, right to know request policy for those serving borough in the capacity of council, committee, commissioner, board, noted that if a record was distributed to council, committee, commissioner, board, which the person serves on that capacity, that person would be able to request a duplicate record. If the person seeking a record that was not distributed to council, committee, commissioner, board, of which that person serves on, the person would need to submit a right to know. Any discrepancy in document request or release should be discussed with the borough solicitor. So basically, if the document was previously handed to the council, committee, or commission, the borough manager and or secretary is allowed to redistribute that to the person that's authorized to receive that without having to go through the right to know request. Anything else has to go through the right to know. I will make that motion.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second to that right to know request for council committees, commissions, and boards. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Steve, I'm not opposed, I just wanna make the point that the last sentence of that motion is actually the most important, which is just a reminder to council that just because you receive something does not mean you should be distributing it to the public without going through the right to know request process.
Good point, Meyer.
Would you like to amend your?
I will amend my motion to include a disclaimer indicating that council commissions or boards are not allowed to redistribute that to other persons of the public without express permission or right to.
Okay.
Now we need a second.
I'll amend my, no, I'll second the amended motion.
I have a question on that. I think that goes beyond, it's creating an issue that we don't have at the moment because we distribute things at these meetings. And unless you're just covering everything we do, period, it doesn't make you do it right to know. It just has to do with whether or not it would be deemed confidential, like for purposes of police information. So if you're not going specific,
I'll let Chris.
Well, respectfully, council members, board members, commission members, committee members receive documents in the capacity as a member of that body. And that distribution is for the purpose of the work of that body. And those documents should not go beyond the body for which they are a working document without going through the right to know request process. And as I mentioned at the finance committee meeting, I think it's important to have a record of requests being answered properly. And the way to ensure that requests for documents are handled properly is to go through a consistent process, and that process is the right to know request. I think it's the best way to protect you and the borough from questions about improper responses to requests.
Ron, the other concern I have is, There's a lot of things example is chair of the planning commission. There's plans or other documents you may receive that are copyright protected that are not subject to open records right to know. So the concern is council, commission, or boards may be receiving documents as part of their membership of that council, commission, or board that they have the right to receive, but the general public would not.
Okay, then my question would be just playing devil's advocate, which I like to do. Our friend Mr. Jady back there has everything that's on all of these, including all the plans that show up on the planning commission at his disposal. What happens to documentation that he can produce based on his video acquiring of the information that goes on?
He is not regulated by the Right to Know office through Harrisburg. We are, meaning what he does with video that he takes himself is his choice.
No,
What the borough does with,
You're going back to where we don't wanna be. We're not covered by right to know. If he's allowed to publicize it and tomorrow morning's Reading Eagle, I can certainly give a copy to my neighbor, unless we're gonna make everything that we get
Chris?
not subject to dissemination to anyone else. I think there's reasons not to disseminate the names and addresses of everyone on the chief's staff, but there's no reason why, if we get a piece of paper that shows where we're gonna put a crosswalk, if I wanna hand that to my neighbor, that's not a right to know request.
yes, actually, it should be.
It needs
should-
to prevent subterfuge, is what I gather from it. A friend of yours says, hey, I understand you saw this plan, can I see it? You can't do that.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I see interpretation of that last sentence.
Yeah,
But the point is, we have to be very clear that it's black and white and spelled out. That applies to everything, not here and there.
But this particular motion applies to a duplicate, not, what about the original? You can't hand that out either.
Correct.
But it doesn't say, but this is only for the duplicate.
No, that
The
last sentence applies in general.
Yeah, the first two sentences are about duplicates, the last one is about all
But there's only
documents.
one motion, we need two motions.
Well, the motion was amended to incorporate the last sentence, so I don't think it's confusing. I mean, I think what has been stated is what is contained in the agenda, which is what about duplicates, and then what about all documents?
I don't know what that means, a duplicate of the minutes? I mean, there's, how many sets of these minutes are there out there right now? And are these something that would have to go through a right to know request to get our minutes? Mr. Jady can make me a copy tomorrow.
No, I can't.
So perhaps,
I can give you a video.
perhaps a topic for a finance and administration or just general council meeting should be the right to know law as the borough is subject to under state law.
I thought you guys already did this the other day and came to the conclusion that we just voted on. Now we're going right back to where we
No,
started.
if you want the deer study, she's gonna give you a copy. That's where this whole thing started. You want a copy of the deer study, she said you can't have it. We said you can. So if you run and get a copy of that, you can. That's where this all started. That's what this is all about.
Point,
So
the
you can get a
second,
copy of the deer study.
the second point is what you
But
do
if
with
your
that
neighbor wants
copy.
it, you can't get it and then give it to them. That's what the last sentence said.
Right, and this, okay, we're gonna do this document by document as we hand them out at council.
All documents.
Any document that you get and you lost it, you can get a new one.
I don't even have to have lost it. I'm here, I'd like one.
Okay?
Misplaced.
I do have a question, specifically the deer report. I was not on council when
Yes.
it was issued.
Yes.
Would I be allowed to get one
Yes.
without a right to
Yeah,
know?
the
Now you
intent
can.
of this policy will be that since you are now a member of council, if a document was distributed to council earlier, you have a right to get a copy of that
Okay,
document.
all right, thank you.
Not sure.
All right, so we have an amended motion.
Call for the question.
We have an amended motion and a second. All those in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
We were contacted by Service Electric Cable Company to enter a franchise agreement, and it was the recommendation of the Finance Administration Committee to recommend to council that we engage Cohen Law Group to begin negotiations on the borough's behalf for the Service Electric Cable franchise agreement. And I'll also make that motion.
Second.
A motion is second to authorize an engagement letter for the Cohen Law Group to begin negotiations on behalf of Service Electric Cable franchise agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Can I just make one comment?
Sure.
Chris, did you review that? Does that be subject to your review? The engagement letter?
I have reviewed that and been
Oh,
satisfied.
okay.
There was a request by the Parks Department to add a snow blower attachment to one of the tractors in the Parks Department. And the request was made by the Parks Department to reallocate $5,000 from the budgeted dollars that were supposed to be spent for AEDs, and the determination was that they have a sufficient number of AEDs. So I will make a motion that we authorize the Parks Department to purchase $5,000 snow blower attachment for the Parks Department.
We have a motion is second to reallocate funds from the Parks AED itemized budget to purchase a $5,000 snow blower attachment. All those in favor? Do we need, it's not changing money, the money's already being budgeted for.
Yeah, this is spending.
Okay, roll call please.
Councilmember Dare?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Senko? Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brennan?
Yes.
As part of the pole barn project, it was required, while materials were being delivered, they needed to be paid for $124,287. It was the recommendation of the Finance Administration Committee to go ahead and do that and then ratify it at the Borough Council meeting. This is all within the approved budget for the pole barn building, but it was a timing issue as to when the materials had to be paid for. So I'm making a motion that we ratify the motion from the Finance Committee of $124,287 to Pioneer Pole Buildings for the pole barn project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize payment of $124,287 to Pioneer Pole Buildings as part of the 2022 pole building project. All those, roll call.
Councilmember Dare?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Senko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brennan?
Yes.
Similar situation we had for the trusses being delivered for the Pioneer Pole Building for $50,114, and I'm making a motion that that request be allowed to pay $50,114 for Pioneer Pole Building for the pole.
We have a motion and a second to approve payment of $50,114 to the Pioneer Pole Building for the delivery of the trusses for the pole barn project. Melissa?
Councilmember Dare?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Senko? Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
And Council First Vice President Brennan?
Yes.
There was a request made by the Parks, by the Street Public Works Department there was an approval done several months ago to add handicap ramps and crosswalks in the hills on Deborah Drive and Wingert Road at the playground and I guess the pools there. That area, we had several requests from residents, and it was determined that the work should be done. Originally, it was gonna be done in-house, but Jim, we're now saying we wanna add it to the street, to the 50/50 sidewalk project. Is that what it's gonna be?
Correct.
To the tune of $46,400. This is outside the budgeted number, but it would come from unspent funds from budgeted items that will not be done this year. So I make a motion that we award a contract of $46,400 to the handicap ramps crosswalks with Deborah Drive and Wingert Road to LB Construction Enterprises.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize payment to, or authorize LB Construction Enterprises a payment of $46,400 for the handicap ramps at Deborah Drive and Wingert Road. All those those, nope, roll call.
Councilmember Dare?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
Council First Vice President Burnett?
Yes.
An approved project for the fire department HVAC has been completed. We need, and I'll make a motion to pay McCloskey Mechanical for the work completed of $48,425, again, within the budgeted capital expenditure project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve payment of $48,425 to McCloskey Mechanical for the work completed on the fire department HVAC project. Roll call, Melissa.
Councilmember Dare?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogel?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeser?
Yes.
Council First Vice President Burnett?
Yes.
As Mayor Levering indicated about the police vehicles, we did a 5-year plan. The chief is recommending that we move forward with next year's plan, but we'd like to order the vehicles this year. The cost has increased, I think it was, what was it, Fred, 86 to 94? $8,000. Just as a side note, going back to the original report, as we said, we have about $1.7 million that of approved items that are reserved for in 2022. Because of some of this timing, like police cars, we still have one police car that's not delivered. We've still got 2 dump trucks that haven't been delivered for 2022. A lot of that $1.7 million is going to be carried over as an approved budget in the reserves from 22 to 23. This is also a project that we're pre-ordering in anticipation of having a problem. So the request is being made by the police chief to go ahead and order this year. That's going to be budgeted for 2023 for $94,050.12, and I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay.
That's not dollars spent, that's just going into the budget, or is that actually dollars spent?
That is just a budget decision.
No roll call. We have a motion and a second to authorize the pre-order of 2 police department vehicles as outlined in the 5-year vehicle replacement plan for 2022 for delivery and payment in 2023 for $94,050.12. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes carry.
There are 2 separate motions coming, but the explanation for them is the same. There is a new tax system that was implemented this year for the Berks County tax system. And when our tax collector looks in the system to make payments, there are some glitches within the system that Berks County is still working on to resolve that showed either parcels that were already paid or that there was no outstanding tax balance on the property. Having discovered some of these errors, there was some requests made. The first one was the 600 North Park Road. The tax collector is requesting, so the county has approved these 2 recommendations, but they will not authorize it until the borough also authorizes it tonight at this meeting. So the motion that's before us is that we're going to waive the late fee on the property located at 600 North Park Road because of the error that was done in the Berks County system and subsequently by our tax collector because of the error in there. So they're gonna pay the taxes, but they're not gonna pay the late fee.
So we refund the late fee in 600 North Park?
It was never paid.
Okay.
They're gonna pay the new they're gonna pay the original tax owed minus the late fee. And I think we gave them 7 days after this meeting to pay that full amount, but not the late fee.
And
So I'll make
I've already communicated that to Betsy.
Right,
Yeah.
so, but 7 days after we approve
Yes.
this. So they have 7 days to do that, to waive the late fee, that's 600 North Park Road, and I'll make that motion.
Second.
So that is contingent on making the payment within 7 days?
Correct.
Is
Business
that part of
days.
your motion?
Yes,
Business days.
business days, 7
Okay,
business
we
days.
have a motion and a second to authorize to waive the late property tax fee for 600 North Park Road, and just pay the flat fee, assuming that they pay it in the next 7 business days. All those in favor?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I don't
think it's necessary because of the tax system error. Now, it doesn't matter because I agree with the motion to accept, but I think the record should show that if there was a systems error, we'd have an awful lot more examples than just these two.
The system error was that in both cases, it showed that the taxes were paid, that no tax was due. It said the 2022 taxes are paid in full. There's no balance.
Really?
In fact, in the next motion,
Wow.
our tax collector so the next motion of 1130 Berkshire Boulevard, they paid the taxes at the discounted rate. And our tax collector sent the check back to them because in the county system, it said the taxes were paid and nothing was due.
So there indeed is a flaw in the tax system. Now, it was, they put it in last year. I know the way they did it was terrible. No pre-training with the tax collectors, whatnot. Horrible way to install the system. But I didn't realize that they had a systems flaw.
Well, the one, like,
Wow.
the 1130 Berkshire Boulevard, our tax collector physically got a check,
Right.
looked in the system and it said it's paid, so she sent the check back to them saying you don't owe any taxes. And then later found out that's not correct. The other one was a property settlement. That property settlement, when it went to sale, they determined the error.
I wonder why we wouldn't have more of these cases.
We don't know. Hopefully we don't. Maybe there are.
So we have a motion to waive the property tax late fee for 600 North Park Road. We have a motion, and a second. All those in favor? Contingent upon paying 7 business days. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on.
And the second motion is for 1130 Berkshire Boulevard, where we're requesting, I'm making the motion that they be allowed to pay it at the discounted rate because that, again, was not their fault.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second to accept the tax payment for 1130 Berkshire Boulevard at the discounted rate. I assume they have to do that within 7 days also?
Michelle, you told Betsy they both have to make their payments within 7 business days in order to have this motion carried.
Yes.
Okay, and she's been in communication with the county, letting them know what's going on.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
That ends the finance.
I make a motion to approve the report.
Second.
A motion, and a second to approve the finance and admin report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. You earned your pay this week, Keith. Borough managers report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Western Berks Water Authority minutes, hold on, let me go back to the agenda. Okay. The Western Berks Water Authority meeting minutes from the July 11th, 2022 meeting are in the council packets for your review. It's my understanding they took so long because they don't meet in August.
We did not meet in August.
I'm respectfully requesting a motion to appoint John Ellington as an alternate member to the Borough's Civil Service Commission.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to appoint John Ellington as an alternate member to the Borough Civil Service Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes carry. Thank you, Mr. Ellington.
I'm also respectfully requesting a motion to appoint Keith Neff as a voting member to the Borough's Civil Service Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Keith Neff as a voting member of the Borough Civil Service Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes carry. Thank you, Mr. Neff.
And finally, I'm respectfully requesting a motion to authorize Attorney Christopher Gerber to act as arbitration counsel on the borough's behalf for the fire department collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize Christopher Gerber to act as the arbitration counsel for the borough's behalf on the fire department collective bargaining agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
I make a motion to approve the borough manager's report.
Michelle, did you have anything else?
Fortunately, I did not.
Then I'll make my motion.
We have a motion, we have a motion to second to accept the borough manager's report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have the treasurer's statement of operations. Anything you'd like to add there?
Just that Keith pretty well hit everything here. 4 months left, guys, that's it. We're on the backside of the year. We have a $3 million surplus through August. If you take the deficit for August, 700,000 plus times 4, 2.8 million, we have some other stuff to spend, but we're not looking too bad at this point. I'm not going to if the finance committee stops spending money, we'll be in better shape. But that's all I got.
Okay. We need a
Read the
motion.
reports, read the reports.
Need a motion to accept.
Also
the-
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's statement of operation report. All those in favor? You also have in front of you the accounts payable of the general fund, the Bureau of Water, Sewer Fund, the Refuse and Recycling Fund. Any questions on those? If not, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion and a second to approve the accounts payable report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Tax collector's report, Betsy is not here. Does anybody has any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the tax collector's report. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes carry. Any opposed? Sorry. Is there any old business that needs to come in front of council?